everyone, and welcome to our first lesson in Introduction to Economics. Let me begin with a simple question. Why can't we have everything we want? We may want more money, more free time, a better phone, a bigger house, cheaper food, better healthcare, and more vacation. But in real life, we cannot have everything at the same time. We have to choose. And that simple idea, making choices, is where economics begins. Many people think economics is only about money, banks, business, or the stock market. But economics is much more than that. Economics is part of your everyday life. When you decide how to spend your money, how to use your time, what job to take, whether to study or rest, or whether to buy something now or save for later, you are already making economic decisions. So what is economics? A simple definition is this. Economics is the study of how people, businesses, and societies make choices when resources are limited. These resources can include money, time, land, workers, machines, technology, energy, and natural resources. The problem is that our wants are almost unlimited, but our resources are limited. Because of this, we must make choices. The basic economic problem is very simple. People have many wants, but there are not enough resources to satisfy all of them. For example, a student may want good grades, a part-time job, enough sleep, exercise, and time with friends, but there are only 24 hours in a day. A business may want to open more stores, hire more workers, and advertise more, but it may not have enough money to do everything. A government may want to improve schools, hospitals, roads, and national security, but it also has a limited budget. This brings us to one of the most important words in economics, scarcity. Scarcity means that resources are limited compared to people's wants. Scarcity does not only affect poor people, it affects everyone. Rich people face scarcity because their time is limited. Businesses face scarcity because their budgets and workers are limited. Governments face scarcity because public money and resources are limited. Scarcity is the reason we must make decisions. Think about your own life for a moment. What is scarce for you right now? Is it money, time, energy, sleep, information, job opportunities? When you understand scarcity in your own life, economics becomes much easier to understand. Economics is not far away from us. It is happening every day in every decision we make. Because resources are scarce, we must make choices. But every choice has a trade-off. A trade-off is what you give up when you choose one option instead of another. If you spend your evening watching a movie, you give up time that could have been used for studying, working, exercising, or sleeping. If a company spends money on new equipment, it may have less money to spend on advertising. Choosing one thing often means giving up something else. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful ideas in economics: opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means the value of the best alternative you give up when you make a choice. It is not always about money. It can also be time, energy, comfort, or another opportunity. For example, if you choose to attend college, your opportunity cost may include tuition, transportation, and books, but also the income you could have earned if you worked full-time instead. Let's use a simple example. Suppose you have $10. You can buy lunch, buy coffee and a snack, save the money, or use it for transportation. If you choose lunch, your opportunity cost is the next best option you gave up. Maybe that was saving the money. Maybe it was transportation. The important lesson is this: whenever we make a choice, we give up something else. That is opportunity cost. This is why economics is not only about numbers. Economics is really about decision making. Economists ask questions like, what are the benefits? What are the costs? What are the trade-offs? Who gains? Who loses? What incentives are involved? and what might happen next? These questions help us think more clearly about real-life problems. Another key idea in economics is incentives. An incentive is something that encourages or discourages people from doing something. A reward is a positive incentive. A penalty is a negative incentive. For example, a discount encourages people to buy. A higher salary encourages people to apply for a job. A fine discourages people from parking illegally. Bonus points may encourage students to submit assignments early. Incentives are everywhere. If the price of gasoline rises, some people may drive less or use public transportation. If college tuition becomes cheaper, more students may decide to attend college. If a company offers higher wages, more people may apply for jobs. Economics helps us understand how people respond when incentives change. Economics is usually divided into two main branches: microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics looks at smaller parts of the economy, such as individuals, households, workers, consumers, and businesses. Macroeconomics looks at the economy as a whole, including inflation, unemployment, economic growth, interest rates, and government policy. Let's start with microeconomics. Imagine a small market where people buy and sell bread. If the price of bread increases, some customers may buy less. If the price decreases, more customers may buy it. At the same time, sellers respond too. If selling bread becomes more profitable, bakeries may produce more. Microeconomics studies these smaller decisions and how they interact in markets. Macroeconomics looks at the bigger picture. Instead of one bakery or one market, it studies the whole economy. Are prices rising quickly? That is inflation. Are many people looking for work but unable to find jobs? That is unemployment. Is the country producing more goods and services than before? That is economic growth. Macroeconomics helps us understand national and global economic issues. Another important idea in economics is the market. A market is any place or system where buyers and sellers interact. A market can be a physical place, like a supermarket or street market. It can also be online, like a shopping app or website. In a market, buyers want goods and services, and sellers provide them. Prices help coordinate these decisions. Prices are important because they act like signals. If the price of a product rises, it may tell producers that demand is high or supply is limited. If the price falls, it may tell producers that demand is weak or supply is high. Consumers also respond to prices. If something becomes too expensive, people may buy less or look for substitutes. Because every society faces scarcity, every society must answer three basic economic questions. First, what should be produced? Second, how should it be produced? Third, for whom should it be produced? These questions sound simple, but they are very important. They help us understand how an economy organizes resources, production, and distribution. Different societies answer these questions in different ways. In a traditional economy, decisions are based on customs and traditions. In a command economy, the government makes many major economic decisions. In a market economy, individuals and businesses make many decisions through buying and selling. Most countries today have a mixed economy, which combines market activity with government involvement. Even in market economies, governments still play an important role. Governments provide public services, build roads, support education, create laws, collect taxes, and sometimes regulate businesses. The question is not simply whether government should be involved or not. The real question is, how much involvement is useful and in what areas? Economics helps us discuss these questions carefully. Economics helps us understand many real-world problems. Why do food prices increase? Why is rent expensive in some cities? Why do some workers earn more than others? Why do some countries grow faster than others? Why do businesses move factories overseas? Why do governments raise or lower interest rates? Economics gives us tools to study these questions instead of only guessing. Let's apply economic thinking to a familiar example: going to college. The benefits may include better job opportunities, higher income, new skills, and personal growth. The costs may include tuition, books, transportation, time, and stress. The opportunity cost may include the income you could have earned if you worked instead. An economist would ask, are the benefits greater than the costs? Now imagine a small cafe owner. She has limited money and wants to improve her business. Should she hire another worker, buy a better coffee machine, advertise online, or save money for emergencies? Each choice has benefits, but each choice also has costs. This is economics in business decision making. Governments face similar choices, but on a much larger scale. A government may want to spend more on education, healthcare, roads, defense, housing, and the environment. But because the budget is limited, leaders must set priorities. These choices affect millions of people. That is why economics is closely connected to public policy and everyday life. One important thing to remember is that economics does not always give one perfect answer. Many economic issues involve trade-offs. For example, raising wages may help workers, but it may also increase costs for businesses. Lower taxes may help people keep more income, but it may reduce government revenue for public services. Economics helps us look at both sides and think carefully. So, why should we study economics? We study economics because it helps us make better decisions as students, workers, consumers, business owners, voters, and citizens. It helps us understand news, prices, jobs, government policy, business behavior, and global issues. Economics gives us a language to understand how the world works. Let's review the main ideas from today's lesson. Economics is the study of how people make choices when resources are limited. Scarcity means we cannot have everything we want. Because of scarcity, we face trade-offs. Opportunity cost is the best alternative we give up. Incentives influence behavior. Markets bring buyers and sellers together. Microeconomics studies smaller economic decisions, while macroeconomics studies the economy as a whole. As we begin this course, remember this simple idea. Economics starts with choices. Every day, individuals, families, businesses, and governments must decide how to use limited resources. The better we understand these choices, the better we can understand the world around us. In the next lesson, we will look more closely at scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. Question number 1. What is economics mainly about? A. Studying only money and banks. B. Learning how to become rich quickly. C. Studying how people make choices when resources are limited. D. Memorizing government rules and business laws. The correct answer is C. Studying how people make choices when resources are limited. Economics is mainly about how individuals, businesses, and societies make choices because resources such as time, money, land, and labor are limited. All right, here's question number 2. What does scarcity mean in economics? A. People have no money at all. B. Resources are limited compared to people's wants. C. Businesses always make a profit. D. Governments can produce everything people want. The correct answer is B. Resources are limited compared to people's wants. Scarcity means we cannot have everything we want because resources are limited. This is the basic reason why people must make choices. Moving on to question number 3. Which of the following is an example of opportunity cost? A. Buying something with no other option available. B. The best alternative you give up when making a choice. C. The total amount of money in a bank account. D. A product that is sold in a market. That's correct. The answer is B. The best alternative you give up when making a choice. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best option you give up. For example, if you study instead of working, the income you could have earned may be part of your opportunity cost. Great job. Now, let's move on to fill in the blank questions. Question number 4. Economics is the study of how people make choices when resources are... What? Think about the main problem in economics. We do not have unlimited time, money, land, or resources. If you said limited, you are correct. Economics begins with the idea that resources are limited, so people, businesses, and governments must make choices. Here's question number 5. A. What is what you give up when you choose one option instead of another? Let me give you a hint. This word means there is a cost to every choice, because choosing one thing means giving up something else. The word is trade-off. A trade-off happens whenever choosing one thing means giving up something else. Moving on to question number 6. What studies the economy as a whole, including inflation, unemployment, and economic growth? Let me give you a hint. This branch of economics looks at the big picture of the economy, not just individual people or businesses. If you said macroeconomics, you are absolutely correct. Macroeconomics focuses on the big picture of the economy, such as inflation, unemployment, growth, interest rates, and government policy. Moving on to short answer questions. Question number 7. In your own words, explain why scarcity is important in economics. Before you answer this question, I want you to think about this. Think about why people cannot have everything they want. Your answer should mention limited resources and the need to make choices. Here's a sample answer. Scarcity is important because people have unlimited wants, but resources are limited. Because of scarcity, individuals, businesses, and governments must make choices about how to use their resources. Here's question number 8. Explain the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Here's your hint. Think about the size of what each one studies. One looks at individuals, households, and businesses, while the other looks at the whole economy. Here's a sample answer. Microeconomics studies smaller parts of the economy, such as individuals, households, consumers, and businesses. Macroeconomics studies the economy as a whole, including inflation, unemployment, economic growth, and government policy. All right, moving on to the last question. Question number 9. Can you give one real-life example of opportunity cost? I want you to think of a choice you make in daily life, such as studying, working, sleeping, or spending money. Then explain what you gave up when you made that choice. Here's a sample answer. If I spend 2 hours watching a movie, my opportunity cost might be the study time I gave up. I chose entertainment, but I lost the chance to use that time for studying. Great job! You made it to the end of today's lesson on Introduction to Economics and completed the quiz challenge. Thank you for watching today's lesson. Until next time, take care.